first, go for the interview round, you have been given a JD, which is called job description. In the job description, there are certain things that are defined for your role. That these are the tools that you should be proficient with. These are the skills that we are looking for, whether it's a technical skill or a interpersonal skill. So those skills, one should be, that's the bare minimum the companies are looking at. But one thing is for most that the companies always look for is the creative or the analytical kind of mindset that you guys have, because after you do your MBA, so you're not aware of the outside environment. You're not aware of the fast-paced environment that the companies work. People who start, they at least take 6 to 8 months in order to absorb how things are around, how you need to cope up. Then you spend like more time with the company, then that how to make your place within the company, within the kind of role that you do. Because when it comes to the annual kind of appraisal, then you see that I have not done like too much in order to talk about. Because when I talk about my annual appraisal, I have to talk about my achievements, right? I have to talk about what all I have done, what all I have done out of the box. It's not just the BAU that I can talk about every time. I need to talk about something that I have achieved in my role, what I have contributed. So these are the things companies would look at. They do not want you to work for 8 hours and just doing your job. They want you to think critically. They want you as a strategical partner with you. Whatever the role that you do, you don't think that I am into finance or maybe I am into marketing or sales. How can I contribute in earning revenue for the company? Each one of you is very, very important, and depends on which role you go to, but you need to give your best. Definitely, when you start, you are not very much clear which role is best for you, best suited for you. But once you start spending time in that role, then you get aware of the other roles around in the company itself, that you can switch later on. That's something everybody is able to do, and even company also supports that. If you're good at something else and you're doing something else, then nobody wants you to spend your time there. They want you to use your skills, just bring your skills on the table, so that you can contribute better for the company. That's how it is. And as far as I think the other question was around the expectation I talked about. I think your question was around. Sorry, can you just ask the question again? Sorry, I forgot.
Sure, sure, sir.
You were talking about some requirement or something. I don't know.
So we will start with each category. First,
Okay.
you
Sure,
can
sure.
ask the question here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so hello, sir. My question is that can you tell us really quickly that how the business model and the background of the consulting companies and how they actually work and how they earn? So can you tell us about that?
Yes, absolutely. So first, let me just ask you a small question. What do you understand by consulting, business consulting or consult? What do you think a consulting company do?
Sir,
From outside, whatever as a layman you think about a consulting company, whatever you know, it would be good to start that conversation from here.
Yeah.
Any one of you, like, if you have any thoughts around, what a business consulting company look like?
Okay,
When I
see,
say business consulting, so we are actually providing some services,
yeah,
right?
more like a doctor for businesses.
You can say that. Basically, when somebody is into a consulting business or a business consulting business, that means, like you said, we are the doctor. So we are the experts into like different domains, and that's how we are able to sell our products and services, right?
Okay.
And when I say products and services, consulting is not always about doing services. Consulting is also about building certain products. Like for example, I have been working on one of the FP&A products,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So FP&A products based on different tools, wherein it's a combination of Python, SQL, and Power BI. How we can create a robust kind of a system or a model for the companies they want to do FP&A, right? FP&A is financial planning and analysis,
Analysis.
wherein people are involved in doing the budgeting and predictive modeling. Sorry. predictive modeling. So in the predictive modeling, because think from that perspective that a company who is having their data, it's always a historical data because those events have already happened. Just think from that perspective that each company wants to know how their next 3 months, 6 months, or 1 year looks like, and how they can strategize for the upcoming years. That's where they need some consulting services. And consulting is not just one area. Consulting is spread across like different areas, whether it's text, finance, marketing, sales, everything. So you can do consulting for everything. You should have good expertise or the business acumen around that area, then you can do consulting. So like these big companies, like if I talk about like Sapient, if I talk about Publicis, if I talk about EY, EY is also into consulting, by the way. So how EY sells their services, because it's not just the brand name. Not everybody goes by the brand name, because some companies have their limited budget. They want to adopt for the like consulting services, but they do not have the sufficient budget to afford these companies. Then you have mediocre player, and then you have smaller player.
Sir, Lal.
Hello.
Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Sir, I think there is some network issue.
For any other company, unless you're not providing the quality work services or the quality products, you end up losing customers. So the churning rate is always high for those companies. So think from that perspective that how you need to maintain that relationship with the client, how you need to maintain the trust with the client, how you also need to maintain the quality services that you're providing to the client. Because if you lose on one or the other points, then your competitors are around to pick that or grab that opportunity from you. So it's not a very easy business, to be frank, though it's a high paying industry, definitely. For everyone, whosoever works into consulting or whosoever is running a consulting business, it's a high paying industry, because lot of expertise it needs in order to have such kind of relationship with the clients, and to have such clients on board, it needs like a lot of expertise and the experience in the background. So that's how it works. I
So,
hope.
sir, yes, sir, it is very clear to us. But as you mentioned that it requires a lot of experience and expertise. So the fresher like us, like what it need for us to like enter such,
Absolutely, good
way
question.
or concern.
Yeah.
So what you can suggest us to prepare or be different from others so that we can enter to such consultees?
Yeah, so I think very few things that I can quickly call out. One is the strategical mindset that you should have,
Okay.
and then
Okay.
another thing is needed, your analytical mindset, how analytically you can think. Because when we talk about analytics can be in any of the industries, whether it's consulting, marketing, sales, finance, or whatever industry you talk about. In today's world, these are the few basic requirements or the bare minimum requirement that we have from the freshers. As a company, we have from the freshers that one should be having the critical mindset, should be a problem solver, critical thinker, and how good they can use the kind of tools that they have expertise on. So if you know the tool, but you can't turn around the information for me, then it's of no use. And how quickly, even if I know Power BI, for example, if I know SQL, I know Python. So I say that I am expert into it. But if I'm not meeting the expectation of the company or the business, then it does not make any sense, whatever the expertise that I have. So you will find once you go out of this college, and then you look for a job, in case you get a campus selection, then definitely you'll be given an opportunity without too much of effort, to be frank. Like when just think about those people who are completing their graduation or maybe the post graduation or whatever the degrees that they're doing, and then they're starting afresh in the market to start a job with a company. So everyone has, their dream company in mind. Not everyone gets it because, one industry could be very, very good for you, but you do not want
So again, there is issue, I guess.
that.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's a highly demand, industry. So basically, one thing that I can suggest you that not just focusing on the on learning tools, but also to gaining different skills.
Okay.
Even if you are master of some tool, if you are not having the right skill set for the job, then it doesn't matter for the company, like whatever the number of tools that because
Okay.
they do not want you to get expert into tools. They want you to be a kind of strategical partner with them because they want how quickly you can turn the raw data into a meaningful information. That's the whole objective. As a financial analyst or as a data analyst or as a business analyst, whatever the different roles that you go into, if you go into such roles,
Okay.
the expectation is very, very clear that
Yes.
they need a critical thinker, they need a problem solver, they need a person who is efficient in thinking, coming from a different perspective altogether,
Okay.
thinking differently out of the box. Yeah. That's all.
So,
So,
sir, as
so, so my question is towards recruitment and hiring process.
Yeah.
So, could you please briefly walk us through the typical hiring process at your firm?
At my firm, all right. So at my firm, the recruitment and hiring process is very much simple. You get the defined JD of the role that everyone should go through, and you should come prepared not just about the company but also about the kind of competitors that we have around. So company only looking for people who think out of the box. How you answer in a interview or in a interview round when you are sitting with someone who is gauging you on different kind of criterias. It's not just how you're answering the question. They are also gauging you on different aspects. How is your body language and how much time you are able to how much time you're taking in order to get the answer for that question, and how confidently you're coming up with that answer. That's something people would look at. Definitely, if you know Power BI, if you know other tools, in an interview round, unless it is a technical round wherein I've been given a task wherein I need to perform something.
Mm-hmm.
That's totally a different thing. But when I'm sitting with a person who is simply decide whether or not I'm fit for the job. So I need to be focused. Revenue model of the company, what it condition, how companies, whether company is growing or not. All of these sort of questions, that I should also be able to ask the person in the interview. That's how you can also present yourself strongly in front of the interviewer. That you're not just sitting to answer the question that the interviewer asks. You also have something in mind that you are not aware of, that you want to know. So it's always good to ask question. Always in an interview round, people give you last 2 minutes, 1 minute in case you have any questions. So
Yeah.
you should come prepared for those questions, and how you start good, you should also end good.
Okay.
You should also end your conversation in a strong manner. So that's my suggestion. Whenever you appear for the interview, just come prepared with both the things. Starting and end should be the first impression, the last impression.
The last question. Yes, sir.
Both are important. Please make sure that you come prepared for all those situations. Yeah.
Okay.
Sir,
And
so
about-
before concluding, there's one
One more
question.
thing, sorry,
Yes,
I
sir.
just wanted to add. I was about to say that. So nowadays, as you see that the AI
Yeah,
is
so that's
Yes, sir.
good.
capturing the market. So my suggestion to all of you would be that we should start learning AI, like what are the like how AI is capturing the business or the market, what all different things that we should be aware of. What is agentic AI? What is RAG? What is MCP? All of these things we should be learning about. Just imagine you're sitting in an interview, as you know that every company is now starting to adopt the AI tools in different other perspective or the requirements that they have in mind, but they gradually come over everything. So just think from that perspective that how important AI is in the current world. So make sure that you understand everything like about AI. What is RAG, what is MCP, and what is a machine learning, what is a deep learning. Everything you at least have a knowledge. If you're not expert into it, just start reading about it. Just start exploring all these things. That's my suggestion. Apart from the tools that you're learning already, definitely.
Okay, sure, sir.
Sure. In this, I was having the same question. Like in this AI era, there indeed a skill gap. There are the grunt work is actively done by AI. So, according to you, what would be beneficial? Like something in our advantage we can use in a skill area or competencies area. How we can get that advantage or bridge that gap?
You can definitely bridge that gap. So you can start with the basic thing, which is generative AI. Currently, all of us are using generative AI as a conversational tool, right?
Yeah.
If we have something in mind, we say thinking that the answer is right or wrong. That's why when you learn generative AI, you should also learn responsible AI use. What is responsible AI use? Because that's what company needs. Because if you read about PI and PII information,
Yeah.
the data, right? So how company concerned about the kind of data that they are maintaining for their customers, their vendors, their suppliers. Every data is very important, I know, but these are the data based on that the company's business stands. The healthcare business is working on the trust. So if they're losing the trust, then they're losing the business.
Yes.
And
Right.
competitors are around always.
Always.
And then you just lose the opportunity there where you can grow. And the company that I've worked for is a top US healthcare company. You must have heard United Health Group.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it also,
Yeah.
the cancer also medicine.
Yes. So more than selling the insurances to the customers, they are into prevention business.
Prevention.
Prevention business. How you can prevent the diseases that are coming your way. How you can keep yourself fit. How you can keep yourself healthy. These are the kind of programs that they have.
Right.
Even in the companies where we have association with, like the last company that I worked for, Fidelity, there also the healthcare service provider was UHC, United Healthcare.
Yeah.
So the companies buy the insurance from United Healthcare, and then we also provide healthcare services in different areas. We also have EAP program. We call it Employee Assurance Program. So, Employee Assurance Programs, right? So Employee Assurance Program is not just keeping people healthy. Like if you have any kind of mental status, like wherein you are into depression or you're not able to deal with the situation, there also we provide consulting. So there are different areas the healthcare industry works. It's not just just selling the insurance and doing the consulting and all, but there are other areas also where if you learn about the company, you get to know what are the different products and services company has, and how it is spread across the different industries also. It's not just the healthcare industry that it supports, but it also supports the other industry, because everywhere you see the insurance is mandate. Even in India, if you work for a smaller company, the company provide health insurance and other plans to all their employees, whether it's a group insurance policy or something, but they have one thing for sure, right, for the employees. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So thank you so much for your time. It was a great session. We learned a lot about you.
I always love to, talk about, I get emotional about, the kind of industry that I've worked in, but uh,
Yes,
always
sir,
good to
it was.
always good to talk about, these topics. But, you should be focusing more on learning right now,
Yeah.
not on, how you get into a company. That you'll get, once you have the right set of skills,
Yes,
nobody
sir.
can stop you. Trust me.
Okay.
And people
Definitely.
who are getting jobs in the first attempt, just think from that perspective, how they're getting the job in the first attempt.
Okay, sir.
Because
Yeah.
their focus is on something else. It's not a partiality that I'm doing, that these people are good and these people are not. But what I'm trying to say, that you should also be self-analyzing yourself, that are you ready for the job? Are you fit for the job? If
Yeah.
you think that I'm confident enough to uh, like go for this particular job, or go for this interview, then you should definitely do. If you're 1% doubt of maybe they must be looking for somebody, so you do not keep any doubt in mind when you go for the interview. If you're 100% sure, go for it. Do not keep
Okay,
any
sir.
doubt in mind. That's all I can say.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Great. Thank you
Thank you,
everybody.
Thank you.
sir.
I
Thank
think
you, sir.
you are also
Thank you, sir.
messaging me, so let me have a call with them.
Sure, sir.
Sure, sir. Sure,
Sure,
sir.
sir.
Thank you,
Sure,
sir.
sir.
Great.
Bye,
Thank you
Bye-bye.
so
See you
much, sir.
tomorrow.
Thank you,
Bye-bye,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir. अबे भाई
भाई रिकॉर्ड किया